Hey, it's us.
Hello, everybody.
And welcome to episode, which one is it? 266.
266.
What does this button do? It's an educational show about smartphones and technology and the cloud and other things. And it's just, we're going to have a special guest for you today, and he'll be in just a couple of minutes.
So, the topic today is smart watches and your health. But I thought I'd start off with a quick little tip, just in general, about smart watches that you can take a screenshot. I think that's kind of cool. Apple Watch screenshot. What you're seeing on the slide there, where it says turn off sleep focus, I just thought that was fun. My watch, when we had to get up early to go catch a flight, my watch beeped at me and said, "It looks like you're awake." I thought that was fun. I wanted to have a screenshot of that to put in my photo album. So, how do I do that? Here is my Apple Watch. And let's say that I want to brag to people who are up north and it's getting snowy that we are at 86 degrees and all day long it's going to be sunny and 86, 85, 83, 81. How do I take a screenshot? Well, there's actually two buttons, and just like all devices, you press both of the buttons. This one is called the digital crown. That round one is called the digital crown, and then this kind of flat one is just called the side button. Press both of them at once and let go, and see how it blinked white. A lot of devices, you're supposed to press two buttons and kind of hold them for a second. That does not work on the Apple Watch. You have to press, just punch them and let go. One thing I read said hold down on one and then just press the other, but that hasn't worked for me either. I press both of them quickly. Where does that photo go? It goes to my phone because the Apple Watch and the phone are connected. If you don't use Google Photos, then you would just look in your photos and there is the screenshot I just took. But if you do use Google Photos, you will see it there as well. There's the screenshot I just took.
Cool.
Anything that you see on your watch, you can take a screenshot of. I thought that was good to know. And there might be times when there's a health monitoring something on your watch's screen that you want to take a screenshot of. And I don't know how to do it on other watches, but I'm sure you can.
Okay. Whoops. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jim, and here together with my wife, Chris, we are Geeks on Tour. And do you think your smartphone is smarter than you? And do you have questions about your Android phone or your iPad or the cloud? And how do you learn about any of this stuff, Chris?
Well, we are geeks, also known as propeller heads, but we are geeks who teach, and we think the best way to learn is in bite-sized pieces on a regular basis. So we've come up with this YouTube show and pick a different topic each time. All of our content is collected on our website at geeksontour.com.
Okay, cool. Where are we now?
We're home, and we had a very nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah, family.
I hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving. We had family over here, and we had lobster stuffing.
That's a specialty of mine. I go out and catch these lobsters when I go scuba diving and cook them up and integrate it into my turkey stuffing, if you will.
Yeah, so that's great. And hello to our online viewers.
Yeah, I'm looking for our online viewers, and I can't quite find that window yet.
I know we have several because I already saw questions for our guest Ron before the show even got started. People are interested in this topic.
There we go. I'll have them up here in a minute. Okay, there we go. Wow, that's cool. How did that get in there? I'll straighten that out. That's better.
Hello, Gary.
Hello, Gary.
Austin. Love Austin.
We do indeed.
Spent a fair amount of time there one time.
Okay. Royal, let's see. There are probably some questions in here. Fitbit standing by. Here we go. Stephen. Peggy. He's ready to learn.
Okay. Well, there's a bunch more people here, but yes, let's get going. We always like to say thank you to our premium members. They're the ones that actually pay us something through our membership at geeksontour.com, and we appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
You're what make our work possible. So I'm going to play another little video, and then we're going to bring Ron on. But so while we're doing that, I would like people who are watching to enter into chat if you wear a smartwatch, what kind. So and then why. Your main. I've listed a whole bunch of reasons here. If you could kind of put your main reason, that would be very educational for us. I mean, that's why we do these shows. We like to learn from you as well as teach. So if you could put in the chat what you have, if any, and what's your main reason for having it. Okay.
All right.
Now, the most of this show is going to be Ron. He is a retired physician, and so he knows his stuff. He's made smartwatches his specialty. But I want to just set the stage with a very beginning level video about how my Apple smartwatch monitors my health. Hi, this is Chris Gould with Geeks on Tour, and this little video is about how my Apple smartwatch tracks my health statistics. I happen to have a watch Series 6, and I'm a beginner, so this is a beginner's video just explaining a little bit about how it does it. It does it with a combination of sensors and apps on the watch itself and on the phone. So the first thing I want to show you is where those sensors, so see that the sensors are on the bottom that are touching my skin. There's another sensor on this button called the digital crown. Now, the apps are on the watch as well as on the phone. So if I wanted to, for example, do a blood oxygen recording, I tap on the digital crown and see my list of apps. So if I tap on blood oxygen and tap start, can you see the red light shining on the bottom? That is how it is sensing my blood oxygen levels. All right, very nice. Next one I want to show you is the ECG, electrocardiogram. ECG. And for this one, I have to touch my finger on this button to close the circuit between my left and my right. No signs of atrial fibrillation. That's good. And then at any time I want, I can just see what my heart rate is. It's tracking that all the time. Now let me show you the apps on the phone. So I just got a notification that I have an ECG recording, and it shows it to me. And here are all the other things that it can show me. Now, one of the things that I like to do is to track my sleep. But I found that the app that came with the watch and the phone didn't give me much information. I used to wear a Fitbit, and it would tell me when I was in deep sleep and REM sleep. This seems to only give me the hours of sleep, period. So I did a little bit of research, and I found an app. I went to the App Store and downloaded an app called Auto Sleep. And I got that both for the phone and for the watch. So on the watch, you have an app store just like you do on the phone. App Store and search Auto Sleep. And it finds it, and you can install it on your watch. Then you can look at the results on the phone, Auto Sleep. And it gives me so much more detail. It tells me hours in bed, hours asleep, hours in deep sleep, and average heart rate during the night. It gives me this reading of something called readiness, and I can get hour by hour detail in here. It tells me, for example, at 3:30 a.m., my heart rate was 58. Just a little bit later there, my blood oxygen was 99%, and it's these purple here that I look for. That means I'm in deep sleep. So that's just a little bit of an intro about what we mean when we say my Apple Watch can monitor my health. I just want to add that video was made a while ago, and the Apple Watch built-in sleep stats have gotten lots better. I'm still using that Auto Sleep, but... So, we've been talking about our special guest, Ron Brown. We've known him for many years because he was an RV traveler a while ago. And we met him in Arizona. He lives in Comox in Vancouver Island, one of my favorite places in Canada. And he is a retired physician as well as being a technology teacher. So he is just perfect for this. Ron, say hello and tell people a little bit about your background.
Well, first of all, welcome and
Whoops.
What'd you do?
can you send that to me after the show? That would be great. So yes, I'm a retired physician. I did meet you in Arizona, and then we finished our Arizona sort of going south, and I came back to our home. And he and I started Tech for Senior about 4 years ago, and that's 190 episodes. And that's sort of a full-time job for me now, and I do mostly teaching, education, and spending my time online. So that's sort of what I do now, and I'm having a ball doing it. And I get to meet nice people like you and Jim, and we have great times, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I just think I have the best job of my career.
So, and the salary is just incredible, right?
Oh yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So it just shows that job satisfaction is not tied to the pay.
Correct.
And then I know that you teach all sorts of things. I mean, your Monday Tech for Senior show, I learn something new every time I go there. And there is a link we'll have a link in the comments below. And we also have a link to your playlist of videos that are specifically about smartwatches and health monitoring. So I highly recommend anybody go and watch some of those. How did you come about making such a specialty out of the smartwatch?
Well, first of all, you're always looking for something that no one does well, and if you're trying to make videos. And really, most of the reporting is done by reporters who aren't physicians. and they often get it wrong. They don't understand what the medical side of this is and how it all works, and they give the wrong impression. So I guess what I'm trying to do is give sort of what the other side of it is and what the medical side is, and what is an ECG? What are your expectations? Is it gonna tell you you're having a heart attack? Is it gonna call an ambulance? Is it gonna take you to the hospital? There's all sorts of misinformation about what these things do and the validity of them. So I like to sort of put some sobering thought into sort of what we're doing here and explain what the advantages, true advantages are in using these devices. And I've told everyone this, I tell them on our Monday show, I believe everyone over the age of 60 should be wearing a smartwatch. And I'll give you reasons today why I believe that is so, because these devices will save lives and stroke and bad things that are going to happen to you. And we have that technology to do now. So I think it's important that we talk about that because it's, and they're cheap. I mean, the Charge 6, which I'm talking a lot about right now, is nice. Of a deal.
All right, try that.
Go ahead.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
He made an adjustment.
go ahead.
Were
Sorry,
we not on?
we're fine. I just had an echo problem.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's where we are.
Okay. Yep. So I've watched enough of your videos to know that you see atrial fibrillation.
We're having an echo problem, Ron, at your end. Is there still echo now? Try speaking. I'm sorry.
No, I don't hear any.
Well,
I don't hear any echo at all. Although you're slow.
Okay, can somebody tell us if we still
There's
have
a
echo?
lag.
Somewhere I need to. Okay.
still an echo.
All right.
Was it
Go
something?
ahead and speak, and I'll mute and see if that works. I'm sorry.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Is it coming through? Is the audio coming through okay? I can't hear you now.
All
Yeah,
right.
Jim, I can't hear you or Chris. There, I can hear you back now.
Okay. We'll keep.
Someone. Oh,
All right. Let's try it again.
Okay.
okay.
So my question is, can you explain or tell us a little bit about what atrial fibrillation is and why it's more important to watch it as we get older?
Okay. So here's the situation. If after the age of 60, our bodies start to change and we get a little older. And so if you're walking down the hall and you run into a door, then it maybe is you can't see. So you go to the doctor and they say you have cataracts, and we take the cataracts out. And then you can see and you don't walk into the door anymore. Then if you walking along and your hip hurts and you go to your doctor and he says you need a new hip, well, you get a new hip and then your hip doesn't hurt. The problem with hearts is hearts sort of don't do quite the same thing. And when we talk about atrial fibrillation, we're really talking about the wiring in your heart. And the wiring just gets old and it just doesn't work as well. And two things can happen. Not only can you get atrial fibrillation, which is too fast, your heart beats too fast, but you also can beat too slow. Now, you've probably heard most recently is there was the big accident in Niagara Falls, with the border closing and that big car blowing up, and that looks like it's going to be a medical event. Then in Vancouver last year, a lady was driving downtown in Vancouver, passed out at the wheel, went across the street and into a cafe and killed a bunch of people. In our area here, we had someone pass out, an elderly person pass out, drive across a gas pump into a a convenience store and burnt down a whole block. So people who have very slow heart rates, as the electrical system slowly fades away and your heart gets slower and slower and slower, then you can certainly black out and pass out and bad things happen. Now that's easily picked up by a smartwatch picking up a slow heartbeat. Now, if you look at the other end of the scale, it's really the same problem when the heart speeds up. If your heart gets too fast, then you can develop a situation called atrial fibrillation, and this can cause strokes. And this is a big contributing factor. About a third of the people who have strokes have it because they got atrial fibrillation. And this is an extremely common after the age of 60. The incidence of both these conditions goes up exponentially. In other words, not linearly, but exponentially. So your chances of getting it by the time you're 70 or 80, of having one of these conditions, is very high. And so wouldn't it be great if we had a watch or some device that we could track and pick this up so that we could. And the other problem with atrial fibrillation is a lot of people don't know they have it. So wouldn't it be great if we could pick that up and find these folks and help them rather than letting them have a stroke? So if your heart is too slow or it's too fast, we can pick this up with a watch, and that's really important.
And I know that all watches have a way to alert you to slow and fast, but atrial fibrillation is really a little bit different. Isn't it a different test for that?
That's right. That's right. So if you have a watch that is really slow and fast, now I must say that is a prerequisite to getting a watch, is we want to make one that has a minimum and maximum heart rate, but not all watches do that. So you want to make sure when you're purchasing a watch that it has the capability of notifying you if your pulse is too slow or too fast. Not just that it's going to tell you what it is, but you want it to notify you. That's the first thing. And yes, once you get into too fast, it could be a lot of other reasons why it is too fast. And so the first thing that you'd want to do, that was the first thing that Apple came up with about 10 years ago. They brought in the first feature on their watch that you could then push the crown and it would do what we call an ECG, not one that we do in the hospital. It's a single lead ECG, and the only purpose of that is to decide if you do or do not have atrial fibrillation. So you could pick that up and you could click the button and you could do an ECG and it would say you do or do not have it. Well, that's okay, but the problem with that is you have to have symptoms to do the test. If you don't know you have it, you're not going to do the test, right? So the next phase that came out was Apple developed irregular heart rate notification, and this is where it's an app on your phone and it continually monitors you. That's pretty cool. It's not, you don't have to actually push the button. It continually monitors you to decide if you have atrial fibrillation. Well, hold on. It doesn't continuously do this. So that's the first thing that everyone gets it wrong. All the reporters get it wrong. It doesn't continuously monitor it. What it does is because as you know, when you do your ECG in your video that you just did, what did you have to do? You had to remain still, right? You had to remain still while you did it. So what they're doing is through the day, these watchers sample you for atrial fibrillation. They sample you at certain times through the day. And when are you most inactive? When you're sleeping. So most of the testing is done at night while you're sleeping, and that will then determine if you have periods of atrial fibrillation, but it's not a continuous monitoring. And that's what the next level of watches that we saw, and Fitbit has it, and the Galaxy Watch and Pixel Watch have all those as well. But most recently, Apple has come out yet in their Series 9 with an upgrade to the software where it does actually monitor you for atrial fibrillation 24/7. And not only does it monitor you, most of these watches exclude you if you have atrial fibrillation. When you go up, it's set up for people who don't have atrial fibrillation. We're trying to pick people up with atrial fibrillation. But Apple Watch, being the most advanced, has this final software where it is designed for people with atrial fibrillation. So if you have atrial fibrillation, it does measure you 24/7 continuously, and it will tell you what your aggravating and relieving factors are, how long you remain in atrial fibrillation. It gives a whole bunch of information that you can give to your doctor. That is only available on the Apple Watch. So yes, we have the ECG, we have the irregular heart rate notification, and then we have the last stage with the Apple Watch.
I noticed that you make a real effort to always say atrial fibrillation to make sure it's clear what you're talking about. But it's also known as AFib, right?
Right,
And
same thing.
and cardiac arrhythmia and just irregular
Heart,
heartbeat. Yes? Are
right.
those all
Cardiac
synonyms?
arrhythmia is well, cardiac arrhythmia is a lot of there are a lot of different cardiac arrhythmias. There's hundreds of them, whereas atrial fibrillation is just one of the cardiac arrhythmias.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so it's one of the cardiac arrhythmias. There's many, but atrial fibrillation is a particular type of cardiac arrhythmia that causes stroke. It causes big problems for people, and it's so common. It's extremely common, and so that's the problem. Is we want to find these people so that we can get them help.
Okay, since you've been talking about the iPhone and this setting so much, I want to show what the setting that I think you're talking about on my iPhone. And so just kind of a demo. So I do have an Apple Watch. It's connected, it's paired with my iPhone. You do have to use the health app. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to go to the watch app. There
Yep,
we go.
the health app. You're in the right
Right.
place.
I have to go to
Turn your iPhone on and go to the health app.
the watch app, and then health, and then there's a bunch of stuff. Nope. Once again, heart. The heart app on the
Right,
health, on the watch
right,
app on my phone.
right. And then
And
tap. There should be one there. There should be a couple, but if you're the latest one is called AFib history, and if you have atrial fibrillation, I don't know. Do you have that?
I do
It
have
says
it. It
A.
says AFib history. Yes.
That's it. That's the latest of the software, and that is where if you have atrial fibrillation, then that's what you would click, and that would you would enroll in that,
Okay, but on
and
this
that would
same screen, there is the low heart rate, and you set
that's
what
right.
rate you want to get notifications for,
Yep,
and the irregular rhythm. That's the notification when, yeah.
that's
So,
right. Yeah,
and these,
that's for all the folks that don't know they have atrial fibrillation. You're going to turn that on, and that's going to be on to pick up those folks that don't know they
okay.
have it. Right. The one that's called AFib history. That's for the people who do have atrial fibrillation, and we want to follow them along a little closer.
Okay, interesting. And so I just stole this little screen off of one of your videos just to show, because I only have the iPhone to demonstrate with, but you say that atrial fibrillation can be monitored with the Samsung Galaxy 3 and 4 or the Fitbit Sense.
Yeah, so some of those are older. The irregular heart rate notification can be done certainly through the Galaxy 4, 5, 6. All those watches will use that. The thing that you have to be careful of, and it's important that everybody understands that it's easy if you have an Apple phone. You need an Apple Watch, right? An Apple Watch only works with an Apple phone. The problem with Samsung is with the Galaxy watches are that you can actually use a Galaxy watch on any Android phone, but the health app won't work, right? You need the Samsung phone to make sure that the health app works on the watch. So if you are considering buying a Galaxy 4, 5, or 6 watch, you want to make sure that you have a Samsung phone. Also, Samsung makes so many different types of phones. you want to make sure it's a compatible Samsung phone, right? So that's really key. And we had someone on the show last week on our Monday show, and they had bought a watch, Samsung Galaxy Watch, and they didn't have a Samsung phone, and they didn't know why the health app didn't work. So you have to be careful of that. Now the same thing happens on a Pixel watch as well. There's certain applications that will only work on a Pixel phone. So, but a Fitbit works on anything. All right. So that's the nice thing about a Fitbit. Now, the other thing that was really cool, and I like to tell everyone this with Fitbit, is that Fitbit brought out this software update for theirs, and they let the software out, and it went this irregular heart rate notification to all their previous models, and it went back a long, long way. So if you have an older Fitbit and you have it on your wrist, check the app on your phone, make sure it's up to date, and see if the irregular heart rate notification is there. Just turn it on. You may have a real old Fitbit. You don't have to have a really new Fitbit for the irregular heart rate notification to work. It can work on a real old one. So it's really cool that they did that.
So there's other things besides atrial fibrillation. I just know that that's one of your. So just basic heart rate. We have a question here from Judy saying, "What are normal numbers for heart rate?"
Okay, so let me answer oxygen? That. Sure. So what on your when you set up your, let me do a Fitbit because I just set my wife's up. She got to charge 6. So on the when you set up, there's they predetermine what your minimum and maximum heart rate is. On the Fitbit, the minimum heart rate is 50. I would set that at 60. The default is 50. I'd set it at 60. If your heart rate as a senior is constantly below 60, I'd check with your doctor and see what he says. If they say, if your doctor says that's fine, then you could certainly set it to 50. But I'd like to know if it's below 60. Not a lot of seniors are below 60, unless, of course, you're taking medication that lowers your heart rate. The top number is set at, I believe it's set at, is it 130 or 140? I can't remember. What is the default? I think it's set at 130 on the Fitbit. You could set it up to 140. I'll leave it at 130. If you're getting hits and it's saying that you're reaching 130, then you can move it up to 140. If you have atrial fibrillation, it'll definitely be faster than 140. So it'll pick up. You'll get a rapid rate, and it'll tell you your heart's really racing. It'll be up to, if you have atrial fibrillation of 150, 160, you'll be cooking. You'll be moving pretty fast there. So it'll pick that up.
And what about blood pressure? Do any watches measure blood pressure?
Yes. So now, first of all, this brings up another question that I think it's really important everybody understands. There are certain features on these watches that are medically authorized. Medically, the FDA has cleared it. All right. So if we take the ECG feature on a watch, and if you take we'll take Apple, we'll take Fitbit, we'll take Galaxy, and we'll take Pixel watches. All those watches went to the FDA. The FDA had to clear those watches, and they certify them as a level 2 medical device. Take them in the hospital and use them. These are cleared as medical devices because the companies have put a lot of money into research and studies and have taken all that information to the FDA and said, here's our data. Here's what the watch can do. You certify it. And so those watches are certified for an ECG. They're certified for a regular heart rate notification. Certified. We know it works, not hocus pocus. The third one is the only watch that is being certified is the Galaxy Watch and it was certified to do blood pressure. None of the watches do that. Now, all the other medical features, or all the other features on watches, such as sleep tracking, fall detection, oxygen saturation levels, none of those are regulated. So it's amusing. Those results are amusing, but just amusing. And I would say that's where we should leave those. Okay. It's not, there's no evidence that they actually have any relationship to how they're going to help you. It's amusing. I would say it's just amusing, but the other ones are clearly they're the solid data solid endpoints and solid results.
And what about blood sugar? Diabetes.
Yeah. So we were talking about that yesterday, and I looked up the data on that because I reported it back in 2018. MIT actually brought out, it was in January, actually in 2018, MIT researchers developed a system where they could, by shooting a laser through the skin and using a color technique, they could figure out what your blood sugar was. And, as soon as I read the article, I did a whole presentation about it and started going on tour, talking about this is going to be the savior, and this is really going to change everything that we have about diabetes, because a huge impact on people's lives, but nothing's happened. And that's the most common question I get. And Apple actually said in a press release this year that probably they're at least 3 or 4 more years out before it'll be on watches. Now, there could be a lot of reasons for this. I'm not sure. In order to make this, again, FDA approved, they're going to have a number of valid studies. In other words, they're going to have to recruit a lot of people. I was part of recruiting people for the Fitbit study that they did, and also for Apple's original ECG study, right? They had 14,000 people in their big study that they did to take the data to get it cleared by the FDA to prove it worked. So I suspect maybe Apple behind the scenes has a bunch of these prototypes going. Maybe they recruited a whole bunch of people. Maybe they're watching them doing the studies, doing the analysis, and trying to come up with some sort of proof that that they can actually do this safely. Now, one of our Bob Gustisha, I don't know if Bob's on the show listening. Bob bought a watch from China last year, and he bought it for $10, and it does everything. It rings it makes toast. They claim it does everything that you want, including blood sugar. And Bob got it for $10. He brought it. He said, yeah, he says it does. When I push the button, it tells me what my blood sugar is. Week later, he says, wasn't very accurate. And in fact, it was really inaccurate. And none of that is, so you got to have something. When we're talking about diabetes, it's serious stuff. You have to make sure that it works, and that it's valid, and that it is going to be of help to people, right? It's going to improve their lives. It's going to be helpful, and we don't know that. And so one of the big problems is that, as we know, if your blood sugar goes extremely low, right, you can get into big problems. You can become unconscious. Would a watch pick up a really low blood sugar? I don't know. And the converse is true. If your blood sugar goes way up and gets really high, would the analysis they do be able to, you don't want it when it gets really high just to say error. You want to know what it is, right? So I don't know what the problem is, but obviously there are some issues here that we don't know about, and it's going to take a while to get it sorted.
All right, so no glucose monitoring, no help for diabetics with watches yet.
Not in the short term. And be very, very careful. Don't buy those cheap watches from China or don't buy anything that because those could be harmful to you.
It's called too good to be true, right? Those ones from
right. That's exactly right.
So the blood issues can actually save your life, but there are other features of the watch that can help you make your life better, like learning how to sleep better. Now, these are things you've told me that these are not FDA approved, so they're just wishful thinking, right?
Right. Well, so I said, I told you about it, and I did a video about this. You can watch the video. I think it's on that playlist. I took my Fitbit and put it on one wrist, put my Galaxy Watch 4 on my other wrist, wore my CPAP machine at night, and I said, okay, let's see how the data compares. And I compared them all, right? And it was amusing. As I said, it was amusing. I mean, you would think that at least they would figure out how many hours of sleep I had, irrespective of the REM and all the fancy analysis it did. but they couldn't even get that correct. I mean, there was, they were 2 to 3 hours difference between each one. And I think so. I think the results are amusing. I love my sleep tracking. I do it on my. I told you I do it on my Fitbit Sense all the time. I look every morning when I get up to see how I slept, because I don't always know how I slept. Sometimes I just don't feel that well in the morning. And is it because I didn't sleep well? And if I didn't sleep well, and my watch confirms that, I budget a nap in the afternoon. So I adjust my schedule. I think, okay, my schedule today is going to be this, this, and this. Oh, I better budget a nap in the afternoon, and
Uh-huh.
then that'll help me out through the evening. But some mornings I get up and the watch said, hey, it did a great job sleeping, but I know the watch. I've had it for 3 years. I'm using it to sort of solve some problems I have, and I think that's what people should do. But the actual REM sleep and the graphs that you get and all that things that happen is sort of amusing at best, and that's it, right? And where I worry about is people start taking medication, they start doing some stuff to try and
Mm,
change the amount of
mm.
REM sleep they have. They really believe in all these little graphs and all these little things that happen, and that's where I get really concerned about that, because that's just not really how it all works out.
Yeah, for me, I don't know about the accuracy of each little piece. In fact, I know that the hours aren't accurate. It says I'm asleep when I know that I'm reading. I have my phone up in front and I'm reading, and yet
Right,
it's recorded as the fact that I'm asleep. But you get to
right.
see your own patterns, and you get to
Yeah,
learn when you eat and drink. For example, I
sure.
learned that I sleep better if I skip dinner altogether. I can have a couple glasses of wine.
Yeah.
I mean, if I eat and drink late, I sleep bad. If I eat late, I sleep bad. But I've found that if I don't eat, if I drink my dinner,
You have a liquid
anyway,
dinner, it works out okay.
it works out. Yeah, it works out. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So, I
that's
mean,
sleep mon.
use it for your best. I guess my advice on that would be, don't take it too seriously, and you can use it for what you think it's going to help you with. I think that's fine. But remember that all the different watches are like, see, when Apple makes this up and makes the algorithm to figure this out, they go to a sleep lab, and it's called plasmography, and they put the electrodes on your head. They measure you in a sleep lab, and then they come up with this monitoring on your watch as to how it's going to correlate to that sleep lab. So the problem is Apple doesn't tell anybody what that is. That's a secret. That's an absolute secret that Apple has, and they're never going to give that up. Well,
we
Samsung has the same thing, and Google has the same thing. They're not telling each person how they arrived at that data, and that's why it's so different. Nobody has to take that data and take it to the FDA and say, "Hey, here's what we did. Is this okay?" Right? It's not certified.
we have a couple of questions. So Michael Daniels asks, AFib or ECG, are they the same thing? ECG is the test that tells you if you have
Right.
AFib, right? Yeah.
Right, atrial fibrillation. He's maybe thinking about ECG, EKG, that's all the same. It's the same terminology.
But okay.
Yeah,
And
but atrial fibrillation is the condition, right?
no, there, that one. John Slaughter. Can the watch detect sleep apnea?
Good. That's a good question. Probably there are, within, the other thing the app can do is it can detect your snoring levels. Now
Oh
there's
no,
actually, some of the watches.
your partner's app can detect that by the noise level during the night.
Right, that's right. So that's
Mine
how the
tells
app
me how
works.
noisy it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right. There are some of the watches that have apps that will be highly suggestive of sleep apnea. I say that you don't need a smartwatch to figure out if you have sleep apnea. Just ask your spouse, right? because you're going to be snoring like crazy if you have sleep apnea. Just ask your spouse, and you'll have a pretty good idea. But you can't use them for CPAP machines. So in order to get a CPAP machine, you really need to have a more in-depth analysis, because there's a lot of other things we need to measure to fit you with a proper CPAP machine. But it could be indicative that you might have a problem. Again, it's what I said earlier. It's amusing and maybe helpful. And if you think that's a problem, do the test, go talk to your doctor about it and see what happens.
Okay, we have a couple other issues I want to get done, and then there might be a couple that we have to take to a backstage pass. But I know that you like to talk about this one, Ron. Fall detection.
Ah.
Is it important?
So this is a pet peeve of mine, and probably the most common question I get asked, because as seniors get older, we fall more, and so it would seem logical for you to have fall detection on a smartwatch. Now, it is interesting. I was just on the Apple site looking on this atrial fibrillation tracking. Do you know there's nothing really there on fall detection? If you look at, and Apple was the one that brought this out and made a big deal of fall detection, right? If you look on, Samsung has fall detection on their Galaxy Watch 4. They do not mention it. There's nothing on their website. You can't find anything out about fall detection. And the same thing on the Pixel Watch. They don't want to talk about it. And I don't think Apple's even taught. I couldn't find anything on their website about fall detection. And the reason is it's very scary. So let's think about this for a minute. If you the concept would be is that you wear the watch, you fall, it detects that you fell, and it's going to call for help, right? So based on that, though, you have to have the watch paired to a phone, right? So that's the first thing you have to do is you have to have a phone, and the phone has to be connected to the watch. In other words, it's got to be, you can't have it 2 blocks away out in the car, and the phone has to be charged and it has to be on. Now, the other problem with the smartwatch would be is that you have to charge it once a day, right? All these devices, all the ones that we've mentioned today, have to be charged, and some have to be charged for longer periods. Now, the watch is on the charging stand and you're wandering around, will you remember to put the watch back on, right? Now, think about an elderly person who now, this is a very complicated situation. They've got to take the watch off for an hour each day, they charge it, they've got to put it back on. They also have to have their phone on, it's got to be on a charger. And if they don't wear their watch to bed at night and they fall at night, it's not going to work. So, for all those reasons, I think it's too complicated. I think that there are much better ways to go about this. I think that, a highly motivated person, I think that maybe works, but I would not want to use fall detection and buy these products to give to my, I say elderly parents. I guess I'm the elderly person now, right?
We have to remind ourselves of that. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I think the technology is too complicated. I think there's much better ways of going about that.
Okay, so you've mentioned a couple times how the watch needs to be paired to the phone, and that means via Bluetooth, right? And right. There are smartwatches that don't require a phone, but if you want the full functionality, and I'm saying that functionality is the phone functions. You want to get the weather, you want it to track your activity, you want to be able to take a voice call, text messages, navigation. That you need to have a phone synced with the watch. And that's done automatically as long as you pair it. Have I missed anything there?
That's right. And that's right. And there are some watches that have what we call, you can put SIM cards in, and they actually are 5G compatible, right? And you can put a SIM card in, and that means the watch is connected directly to you have your own phone number actually on the watch. It's connected right to the cell service. But that still doesn't work for the fall detection. If the fall detection through emergency notification still has to go through the phone. It still has to be, even if that is occurring, you still need the phone for it to work. So I just don't. That's why I really don't like that technology, because I can just see people forgetting their watch to put it on. You got to take it off every day, leave it off for an hour to charge it. Then you got to put it back on. And if you don't wear it at night, it's not going to work. And it's much better to have a device that you can wear on your wrist that has a battery life of 6 months. And that if you get a problem, there's many companies that offer these. Um, um, ADT is one of them. They have a device where you wear it around your wrist. You can have it as a pendant on your neck. The battery lasts forever, and you push the button if you need help. Now, it's not fall detection. It doesn't, but if you need help when you fall, you just push the button and that automatically rings the emergency line. So there's no charging. It's always on your wrist. It's always around your neck. It's always there, and it will always work.
Okay, so lastly, I think a lot of people probably came here because they want to buy a watch and wonder which one should they get. I'll let you talk.
Well, that's a good question. And of course, I just bought. We've talked about this on our Monday show a lot, and for this season, and I actually looked for a watch for my wife. She had her. The other thing you got to remember about these watches, they all have batteries, and so you got to budget 3 to 4 years, and you're going to need a new watch. They don't last forever because you can't replace the batteries in them. So I guess the question, so I was looking for a new watch for my wife, and I was looking around, and I hadn't looked for a while, and I looked at the Charge 6 that was out, and the Charge 6 is around $169 US, and it's on sale this weekend.
That's a
for
Fitbit,
99
right?
for 19 Fitbit. It's a Fitbit Charge 6, and it's on sale right now, and it's Best Buy has them, Amazon has, they all have them for $99, right? And it has all the features of the Fitbit, the Pixel Watch, which is like $300 more, right? The only thing it doesn't have is a microphone in the watch, so you can't sort of answer the phone on your watch or anything like that. But it has all the cardiac features. It's got the ECG, it's got irregular heart rate notification, maximum and minimum heart rate. It's got all the workout apps. It tracks your pulse. It does all the cool stuff on there, including it has its own GPS tracker right in the watch. It's an incredible thing. I can't believe they packed all that in there for $99, right? And it works on Apple and iOS. But the other thing is,
But it's still a Fitbit, so we're not worried about it being so cheap that it falls apart, like the Chinese ones you were talking about.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, that's yeah. I mean, I haven't had any trouble with mine, and Gail's had a bunch of them, and she's never had them. I haven't had any problems. I mean, they're obviously some people have had problems with breaking. The watch is not lasting. It depends how hard you are on them. But I just want to let everyone know. I mean, if you do have an iPhone though, and it is your health you want, really, I've said before, Apple is by far the leader of this technology. And the other thing that's I want everyone to know is that the thing and why I really like Apple so much is because when they bring a service out, it's available in all the countries around the world, because these watches are all globally, right? The problem with the Google and the Fitbit Sense was when they brought the Fitbit Sense out is the FDA in the United States hadn't even approved the ECG app. It wasn't until 4 months later that they finally approved it. In Canada, because these devices have to be approved in each country. So in Canada, it took another 14 months before it was approved in Canada. And in India, where it was a huge, big market in India for the watch, and they were all watching my videos and saying, hey, how come we don't have it? And they didn't get it for 2 years. 2 years after Fitbit had the watch out in the United States, they didn't get it for 2 years after. Where you don't see that with Apple. Apple knows they're bringing it out. They have a really good network around the world. It all just happens and they get it done. So I guess that's really why I like the Apple Watch so much, and I like that. So if you are in another country, you want to think about that.
I know that this Judy has been raving about her Pixel deal. So she bought she upgraded from Pixel 6 to Pixel 8 phone and got a free Samsung Watch 6 through Verizon and Costco. Pretty cool. Now, will she have any issues with the Samsung Watch and Pixel
Yeah, the health
phone?
app won't work. The health
The
app
health.
won't. The health app. I know so I don't think the ECG and the blood pressure monitoring on the Galaxy Watch 6 will work with. I'm not entirely sure. It did not work on my Pixel. I have the Galaxy Watch 4, and the ECG and the blood pressure will not work on my Pixel phone. You need that Samsung Health app, and the Samsung Health app only works on the Samsung phone.
Okay, and just one more question, and then I'm going to go to our review. What we eat is the other dimension of our health. Any apps recommended for tracking food? Well, the problem with tracking food is it's up to you. You have to write it down. Or might there be someday with artificial intelligence, take a picture? Is there such an app exist that you can take a picture of your dinner and it will tell you?
I'm sure there's lots of, but just to let you know, though, all these, I know that the Fitbit app does this. You can put your food in, and you can track your calories, and you can work on weight loss. There's a whole weight loss part of the app, and I'm sure that all of these health apps have it, but it's all sort of, you have to put in what you're eating and monitor that. But I'm sure that there'd be no reason why you couldn't take a picture of your food, and it should be able to figure out what the calories are and how big the portion. I mean, you'd think that would be available.
Why not? Yeah.
I want Jim's lobster stuffing, and that isn't going to sort of fit in with my calorie
All right.
reduction.
We don't have time to talk about this, but I just think it's interesting. It's not just watches; it's wearables that have sensors. So Jim has a ring that does his fitness tracking, and hearing aids are coming up with, because your ears are a good place for measuring temperature and all that stuff.
Blood pressure. Well, yeah, and also pulse, right? And that's absolutely right, Chris. We're looking at other, hearing aids. We're looking right now, that's coming out for tracking your pulse, and there should be no reason why we can't do all the things we talked about today through hearing aids. Yeah, I think that's certainly possible. We're also going to see in the next couple of years more sensors that will be measuring different things in your different types of biochemistry in your blood, for example, and that would be and so those are going to be coming out as well over the next couple of years. So it's only going to get better, right? It's just going to get more and more. Pretty soon you'll have your before you go to your doctor, you'll just hit a button on your watch, and they'll send them all the data, and then you'll have it all before you get to the. That's going to happen quickly.
And the smart bra, I've just read about. It's in development, but one of the things or even just an insert to a bra that will sense anomalies and give you early warning of breast cancer. Would that be cool, or what, if it was that easy? So anyway, good stuff to come. So we have questions for you, or here. Have you learned something? If you've learned something, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't. Go ahead.
The Backstage Pass is a meeting right after this show. You get the link from an email that Chris sent out earlier, or go to our website, geeksontour.com, and go to the member login, and you'll find it there.
And we'll continue this discussion. And Ron, you're going to join us, right?
I certainly will.
Okay, good. So I think we got all the questions. We have questions for you.
It's 3 o'clock.
True or false? For best results, you should wear your watch 24/7.
I'm going to let Ron answer these.
True.
And which is something that people don't like, but you get used to it. Honest, you do. And when you can
You
look at
know,
those stats every morning,
you know, as an old person, I found that I'm very reluctant to change, and I always took my watch off when I went to bed, and I couldn't sleep if my watch was on. And I just made a decision to change that, and I wear my watch all the time now, and I feel awkward if I don't wear it when I'm sleeping. So, it's just you get used to it, right? You change, you just have to change your ways a bit.
The most reliable health monitoring features are those approved by A, the FDA, B, Smartwatch Consortium, or C, Microsoft.
Don't you trust Microsoft? The FDA, the FDA.
Okay. Atrial fibrillation can be shown using what test? X rays, TMT, ECG, or blood oxygen?
ECG.
and EKG is the exact same thing, right? Just
Same
different
thing, same
spellings
thing.
of the same words.
Yeah, yeah,
ECG or EKG.
same thing, same thing.
Being alerted to this can save your life. A, high low heart rate. B, low blood oxygen. C, atrial fibrillation. Or D, all of the above?
All of the above.
Dr. Ron is not a fan of fall detection because A, no evidence it works. B, watch must be worn and not on charging stand. C, must be paired with phone. D, confusing for the elderly. Or C, all of the above?
Tell us what you really think,
All of
Ron.
the above. All of the above.
One more.
Okay. And true or false, the most important notification to turn on is irregular heart rate.
True.
Okay, because that you know people that has saved their lives, right? You've gotten reports.
It has, right. And I just worry that people haven't, particularly with Fitbit, because they put it into all the old models. So you just need to turn it on. Just look on your phone and just go into the Fitbit app, and it's right there. It's right in the first thing you'll see under the heart section. Do you want to turn it on? You see, yes, turn it on.
One last question from our audience that I want to, how do you charge it if you're wearing it 24/7? Well, you have to wear it 23/7, basically.
That's right.
Is just you can't have that habit of charging it overnight because you need to wear it overnight. So
That's right.
you have to figure it out. It's not easy, and I'll go for that. I have finally gotten good at when I'm sitting at my desk at my computer and I know I'm going to be there for a while. That's when I'll take the watch off and put it on the charger. It only takes an hour, at least for mine.
Yeah.
Hour
Well,
and a half at the most.
My ring
Right.
will charge in less than an hour, and it's good for 3 or 4 days. My watch will charge in half hour, and it's good for 6 days. Unless I'm diving and it's a dive watch, then it uses more battery. So it's
Right.
variable.
It's very like my Fitbit watch, my Fitbit Sense. So it would used to charge in 20 minutes. It was great. I'd go in, have a shower, do my morning thing, put it on the charger while I was having a shower, come out, and it would be charged up and away I go. But now it's 3 years old. It's taking longer to charge. So I come out and I'm finished. I want to get on with my day and I don't have my watch. So of course I take off and I leave it in the charger. Well, now it's mid-afternoon and I'm thinking, where's my watch? Oh, rats, it's on the charger, right? So what good is that going to do me if I'm using it for fall detection?
Right.
Doesn't work on a charger, right?
Yeah, we've had the issues, but we got to get backstage. This has been
All right.
great.
Okay.
I want
I'll
to
meet you there.
remind our viewers there that we have the Backstage Pass. It's an online thing happening right after this meeting and on Zoom. You get the link from the geeksontour.com website, or
It's for members only.
it's for members only. You click on the member login. After logging in, you see the pass. What else you got there? What's the webpage that lists all of our YouTube shows, Chris?
geeksontour.com, and then you click on the menu for YouTube show. All 266 of them are listed there, and you can watch any one.
Whoops, what did I do? All right, what's the webpage that lists all of our recent newsletters?
geeksontour.com, menu items newsletter. 15 years of newsletters monthly newsletters are all listed there.
Okay. And why do people pay $58 a year to join Geeks on Tour?
To view all of our videos, to ask us any question, to join our backstage pass, and to get the written notes of these shows. This is going to be a fun one to write up the notes on.
Oh, I can't wait.
And some people pay us the money just to say thank you for all that we do for free. And we thank you.
Okay, we do invite you to become a member at geeksontour.com. Join now. That's it for this week. Sign up for the newsletters, become a premium member, subscribe to this channel, do all those things. Like us, thumbs up. You know how to do that all stuff. And
see you next time.
I'm
Chris.
And I'm Jim. Push a button.
That's it. Oh, okay. I did.
What does this button do?
What does this button do?
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, sure.